Hey there guys, how's it going? My name is Sumit Chatterjee from the Flow Zone Academy, and I'm a flow state coach, which means that I help you feel better and perform better. So what I want to talk to you guys today is how the body is like a metaphor. Have you ever heard the term that the body is the subconscious mind? It's very true. Our body stores a lot of neurotic thinking patterns and holding patterns, and they can be stored throughout our body. And a lot of the times, metaphors are speaking for us, and metaphors is the language of the subconscious mind. It speaks in symbols. So when you can listen to the language itself, you're going to get a lot of little clues here and there about what to do when it comes down to your own body. The body-mind connection. The first idea of body-mind dualism was from the idea from Rene Descartes, right? I think, therefore I am. So there must be a person doing the thinking, right? There must be a consciousness there. And he got to this idea how, we have these physical sacks, these meat suits that are separate from the thought. Once we can find the connection between body and mind, it starts to set up a very interesting dynamic. Freud said that the ego is ultimately derived from bodily sensations, chiefly those springing from the surface of the body. I want you to look at the body in these two different ways. One is a very yang way and one is a very yin way of looking at it, okay? So one is a very masculine way, one is a very feminine way. So the masculine way is in the term of mechanics. Have you ever heard this concept or this metaphor of our brain being a software or a body being a hardware, or we are comparing ourselves to bionic creatures or robots in a sense? And you'll notice a lot of bodybuilding uses this to sell their products. Build this body, right? Building it. It's very much of like an infrastructure, an architecture of the body, if you think about it, right? Instead of building, it's almost like this renovation that's taking place. You know how Tony Stark struggles with the effects of becoming more machine-like in combination with his own flawed humanity? The machine-like elements of his body are actually poisoning his heart, aka his humanity, right? His genius makes him more machine-like. I actually got these blue light blocking glasses from the movie Avengers, actually, the other day, so I just reminded of this metaphor. He's socially awkward in his relationships, and he goes on this journey, on this trilogy, to get in tune with a much more grounded humanity, right? He wants to find that connection with Earth again. A lot of this metaphor of the body being this mechanical thing, and actually it helps you to work out, right? If you imagine your body being like this machine, it's actually going to help you a lot to be able to step into the right form as you're working out, right? So this is being promulgated through energy drinks and sports drinks. We have these different types of apps nowadays to measure our heart rate, or our Fitbit to measure different aspects, or how much food we're eating. All of that is coming into this idea of the body being this machine, all right? So this mechanical man, in a sense. Bruce Lee said it too. The mechanical man with the instinct, which is very natural and organic. So the other one, obviously, you can think of the other one being nature or yin, and this idea of the body being this natural thing where it's growing just like nature is growing. You know how we say things like the conditions are ripe, or there are opportunities waiting to be harvested, branches of the family tree? We use all of these metaphors to also relate to the body. Previously, how I mentioned the mechanical side is formulated through all of these systems: the nervous system, the endocrine system, the cardiovascular system, right? A system is very mechanical. And so we use that to actually understand ourselves. And nature is actually very abstract. And so it's this kind of coming to understand the body when we talk about different things like energy bodies and things like that. It's very abstract, right? So it's very difficult to comprehend, but it's also the very imaginative and the yin nature of things, where it's growing, it's blooming, right? It's flowering, and we can use all of these ideas of even like fertility to showcase that the body is like this natural organic thing. That's where you can also have marketing selling you on natural products, herbal products, and organic food. and this idea of we're constantly growing, or we have this blooming potential as human beings to constantly grow all the time. And growth is the consciousness of happiness. So I understand that they would use that in a way to market to people because, yeah, they're using your own body to understand this very natural process of earth, wind, right, air or breathing capacity, the fire in the belly, right, the navel, and then you have all of these systems of earth, wind, water, fire, really being able to understand the body in that way. So there's the first of all the very mechanical way, and then we have the very natural way. Now we also get different metaphors such as trusting your gut, right? A person who is spineless, meaning they don't have any foundation. Giving someone a hand has utility, it's a resource, right? So giving someone a hand, meaning you're helping them, you're giving them resourcefulness in that situation. Facing your problem, your face having to do with something that experiences that fight or flight or that fear. The saying or the idiom of break a leg, like right before you're about to act, right? Break a leg, it's like right before you're about to give a performance, right? So that's again going with the natural thing. It's like when we act, you're more likely to break a leg, but when you're being authentic, you can actually stand on your 2 feet, right? So this is very subconscious, right? And all these metaphors are working in this very, very subtle or subliminal way, okay? Like seeing eye to eye or somebody being stuck up. What do they say? Stuck up in the head, right? Very in the mind. All of these are giving you little clues on what your body is communicating to your mind, all right? So now it's time to dig a little bit deeper and look at the possible metaphors for the body that may be certain questions for you to consider within your own body. Let's start from the top and then we'll work our way down to the bottom, okay? So first of all, we have our head and our neck. Being very heady, being in the head, being stuck in your head is all about the world of the thoughts, and a lot of excessive overthinking happens up here when people get a lot of stuffy noses, sinus problems, headaches, things happening with your ears or things happening, all up here generally are from headaches, right? So why do we feel like, we use terms like keep your head held high? Well, that's because it's associated, this whole area is associated with our confidence or our self-esteem, all right? Ask yourself, where in your life are you lacking confidence? If you're having a lot of heady issues, you're not grounded enough, right? And so in that specific way, you're disembodying yourself, you're cutting yourself off from the physical world, and you're going into the world of thought, imagination, fantasy. And so when you're having headaches and all these things, and you're having neck pain and all this stuff, neck problems are this kind of this disconnection, and your head, your neck holds your head up, right? Which is associated with confidence. So you can use that metaphor to help you understand that issue better. Then we have the shoulders. Outside the anatomy, we use this term of the shoulders to deal with or accept something which is our duty or responsibility. So let's say you're carrying somebody else's burdens, right? You might feel you carrying their burdens on your shoulders. And we have this image of, Mr. Olympia or Hanuman in a sense, where we have this area being very activated. So you know how we have that metaphor called shouldering the load? So that's where that comes from. So you want to ask yourself, if you're having a lot of shoulder issues, where do I need to accept responsibility in my life? Then we have the upper back, or the traps, the trapezius muscles, you can almost say. And you have this also kind of upper back, this area, right? So problems associated with your upper back metaphorically correlates to burdens being something outside of your control, right? So problems being outside of your control. Let's say you have the term of someone stabbing you in the back, right? Have you ever heard of that before? Someone using that term, I backstabbed him, right? That's usually in this area. So you want to ask yourself, who or what is holding me back, right? What is the roadblock associated with my life? It might be a specific individual who's actually stabbing my back, right? In a sense. Or it could be a situation that is holding you back, but it's completely outside of your realm of control. It's something external to you. And so it's showing up as an upper back problem. Then we have the idea of lower back pain. Now, I've really had to confront this idea of lower back pain, and I've understood from this book called Healing Back Pain by Dr. John Sarno. And what he's pointed out is actually it's not from bulging discs, right? That's not the root cause. It's not from inflammation. But actually, the root cause of a lot of back pain, lower back pain, is from what we call compressed rage. So if you're holding a lot of anger inside of you and you're not expressing that anger, it's going to show up in this lower back. And then there's this kind of tension myositis syndrome, or the TMS. So you want to think of the phrase of like bending over backwards for somebody. So you can ask yourself the question of, where am I angry, or simply what burdens am I carrying that I've repressed and I feel, ashamed or guilty about, and I haven't really dealt with yet. So I noticed a lot of my back pain going away when I started to confront the things that I was actually angry about, and I was confronting them and using that anger as fuel and actually raising that within my body. One of the great exercises you can do is the bioenergetic bowspring, and it's also a yoga exercise where you're doing a back bend. And that really helps to open up that entire area as well, right? And so there's lots of different things which you can do to be able to confront these different bodily issues which are affecting the mental. Hamstring relating to hamstrung. Okay, so to get strung up, hamstring, to get strung up on something. Where am I strung up in my ability to be effective in my life? Where am I not optimizing my life, right? So in a sense, the hamstring is metaphorically known to damage or ruin a force of effectiveness of someone or something. The hips. Now the hips has always been known as a kind of, pelvic energy. It's associated with the lower, obviously, the lower chakras, if you're looking at that system at all, right? And the hips have everything to do with flexibility, mobility, and just being able to be a lot more open, right? It's like the metaphor here is like the idea of when you say shoot from the hip. Where in your life are you being very rigid? Or as in, you're not thinking something through enough. In a sense, you're not giving yourself an open mind, right? So you're very strung up, meaning you're very caught up in a certain kind of idea or an ideal way of dealing with something. So to be strung up, you can think of the hamstring, right? The string, almost like this flexible instrument. A string can bend in a way. So you can say, where in my life am I too stubborn? Then now the knees, if you look at the knees, this is a common sports injury, and it's a pivotal joint between the femur and the tibia. So metaphysically or metaphorically speaking, the knees are very similar to the hips, right? They represent flexibility and an ability to bend in a given set of circumstances. So you know how they say, I'm knee deep in something, right? It's like a sense of danger. So that also has to do with rigidity. So if you have knee issues, it's to do with rigidity in your thinking, or where in your life you're unable to bend. Similar with the elbows, right? It's like the same idea. You're being very rigid in your ways. And so where in your life can you be a lot more in flow and a lot more flexible, right? Then you have the idea of the Achilles. Now you've heard the phrase Achilles heel. It's one of the most famous metaphors which we can actually go to towards a Greek myth. So look no further if you're having a problem with your Achilles, is associated with your own strength. So you can ask yourself the question of, what is my greatest strength, but is also my greatest shortcoming or my greatest weakness? It is sometimes our greatest strengths that expose our greatest weaknesses. It can be a blessing and a curse. You see what I'm saying? So it's both a blessing and a curse, and a kebab together, right? You're getting both of those dynamics. So that's one question you can ask yourself. What is my greatest strength, which is also my greatest weakness? Let's say your greatest strength is empathy. If you're too empathetic, however, you're going to feel other people's emotions, right? And that might make you feel a lot worse. However, it's also a great tool for intuitiveness and understanding and empathizing with others. So that's one example, right? Where your greatest strength can be your greatest weakness. Then we have the feet. I mean, this one is pretty obvious. Your feet are on the ground. It has to do with your solid foundation, right? So you know how we have the term of I woke up on the wrong foot, or I put my right foot forward or the wrong foot forward. Where in my life am I taking the wrong steps? Or where in my life do I feel ungrounded, right? Where am I taking the right steps in my life, and where am I taking the wrong steps in my life? That's a question that can really start to strengthen your feet. Now, if you have injuries in any of these different areas of the body, you can start to contemplate these deep, meaningful questions a little bit more to start your healing process in the mental world. Because, a lot of times our mental attitude determines how fast we can heal something. And the advantage of placebo has an effect in certain kinds of healing modalities. Start to ask yourself this question, start to explore this mind-body connection, and it will help you to unlock a deeper part of you and do that self-study and self-awareness. I hope this video was new to you and it taught you something. Have an amazing day. Feel free to reach out to me. May the flow be with you, and stay legendary.